All right, what is good, you guys? No trades took today. However, I did want to do a, I guess you can say, trade recap or market recap, whatever, because there was a few things I wanted to go over that I actually went over in the Discord, and they asked me why I didn't take specific trades, and I let them know my reason. So pre-market, we had news, right? Okay, here's our data news candle. We had data highs, data lows. Okay, so what did we end up doing? Well, we ended up continuing higher and then retracing. When we retrace, what do we retrace into? If you guys trade pre-market, this was a beautiful continuation model. Um, we created this 5 minute for value gap right here. Okay, so just a basic continuation model. This first line is going to be an hourly unfilled for value gap over here to the left, right here. And then right above it is 4 hour highs. All right, so we had all this low resistance liquidity on the higher time frame. So with that being said, that would have been our targets for pre-market. Here is our entry model, right? We created data highs, and the reason I wasn't, even though we took out data highs first, the reason I wasn't looking to short this or wouldn't look to short this is because we didn't inverse this 5 minute gap right here, right? If we inverse this 5 minute gap, we can be like, okay, because this 5 minute gap is essentially our condition, right? So with that being said, price came into it and we didn't invert it, right? We tapped into it and respected it. And how do we know we respected it? Well, let's drop down to the 1 minute. What do we have? Well, we have a couple 1 minute for value gaps. I don't know if there was a 2 minute. Was there a 2 minute? Why is my laptop so laggy? There was a 2 minute right here. Okay, so here is a 2 minute for value gap. Your entry point would have been right here with this candle. Stops at the lows inside of the fair value gap. And then you could have went take profit one, break even at these internal highs right here, and then full take profit at the unfilled 1 hour for value gap right here. Or if you got a worser entry and just enter strictly off all the 1 minutes that got essentially fucked on, you could have targeted these 4 hour highs up here, and well, all of them would have got hit. Now, I would have just targeted this 1 hour for value gap just in case price wanted to reject off of it. Why? Because it was unfilled. But that was the singular pre-market trade that happened. I wasn't in the market pre-market today, but market opens. What do? We create a market open high. Okay, we sweep out these highs right here, and we trend down. What do we trend down into? We are inside of this 15-minute fair value gap and this 15-minute fair value gap. So I was looking for longs. We had this accumulation zone, but the reason why I was still looking for longs, even though we came higher, was because this wick took out everything right here. So this wick is technically our manipulation point, because it did sweep out all this liquidity right here. Now, if this wick only came and did this right here, like took out these lows, then I can be like, okay, this was our manipulation higher, and then we can go lower. But this essentially was our manipulation. Why? Because, well, we took out fucking everything all the way down to essentially like right here. So that was our manipulation leg. We ended up creating highs right here, and then we retraced. And when we retrace into those 15-minute for value gaps, we ended up creating equal lows with this low right here. Okay, so around this time, it is about 9:38. So I'm really not looking for anything. I wanted to see these lows get swept out, and then look for longs towards these market open highs right here. So that's really what I was anticipating on. And again, we also had this slight accumulation zone, and then I wanted to see us manipulate lower, sweep out these equal lows, which was also an unfilled fair value gap, right? So this was a discounted fair value gap. So that's why I wanted to see that shit get swept out. What ended up happening? Well, we kind of just bounced around. And when we got to this point right here, this is something I want to go over. So when we got to this point, we ended up creating an internal SMT. I guess you guys could say it's like a 5-minute SMT. And then we also had all-time high SMT. Why? Well, because look where ES is trading at the higher time frame. There's nothing to the left of us, right? And obviously NASDAQ still has all that low resistance liquidity on the higher time frames. So we have a what's it called? A all-time high SMT, and now an internal SMT with a unfilled 15-minute for value gap below us with relatively equal lows. Now, with that being said, I didn't like this entry due to the fact that I've been losing a lot recently with these 30-second inversions. So just for the next like couple of weeks, I told myself I'm just going to be taking 1 through 5 minutes. However, there was a plethora of 30-second inversions right here. I want to go into my top step real quick. Give me 1 second. Make sure none of my information was showing. Okay, right here. Look, we have a 30-second right here. Right? We have a 30-second right here. And then there was also this tiny 30-second right here that all got took out with the same exact leg, right? So obviously, this candle is way too freaking premium, right? Way too premium. So what can we do? Well, we could have set a limit order at the inversion of the middle time frame fair value gap, right? Well, because this one was way the fuck up here. If we truly are going to go down to that 15-minute, we're not going to retrace all the way up here, right? Especially after creating that internal SMT. So, and this one's pretty premium. So what we could have done is we could have set a limit order at 860.5. So where is 860.5? 860. Okay, so about right here, right? So right where this other line's at, let's say, let's just use this other line as our point. So we could have set a limit order right here. Okay, we could have got tapped in with this candle, stops at the SMT highs, and then your take profit could have been the equal lows right here, which is also the 15-minute fair value gap. Okay, so if we did that, what could have happened? Well, get chopped around a little bit, and then Diddy to the downside where we are not, we wouldn't go break even on this trade just because it's a 1-to-1. Still nothing yet. Still nothing yet. And then boom, we would have hit take profit with this candle right here. So this was about a 1-to-1 trade. I didn't take this. Why? Well, because look at the time. Okay. So what I was banging on was, was 10 a.m. to open low, because I'm still bullish on the day, was 10. Even though we had those SMTs, I was still pretty bullish. I wanted to see us continue higher towards all that high time frame LRL. Here, let me show you guys one more time, just in case you guys forgot. All this high time frame LRL to the left of us, right? These are all hourly and 4-hour highs. Fuck. So that's why I didn't take that short, but that was a valid short, okay? So if you guys did take that, W to you. But I was more convicted that we were going to go higher. Why? Because this is an unfilled 15-minute fair value gap. We have equal lows. So what I wanted to see was 10 a.m. open low, and then I can take a long to go higher, right? So I wanted to see like a 1, 2, or 3 minute gap open up right here. We ended up getting a 1 minute gap. We also got a 10 a.m. open low. My fucking eyes lit up. My dick got hard. What did I want to see from here? I wanted to see an inversion of this gap, and then I'm targeting these highs up here. I understand there's SMTs, but I was bullish on the day. That was my narrative, right? And we also got a 10 a.m. open low into an unfilled gap, and we swept out these equal lows. So boom. What ends up happening? We come and tap into this, and then what do we end up doing? Almost invert it, and then we just continue lower and lower towards where? Well, towards data lows, okay? We ended up taking out data lows, and what do we end up do? We come and fill this 1 hour for value gap, right? We come and wick into this 1 hour for value gap. We take out data lows, and then we have a 1 minute inversion right here. So why didn't I enter off this 1 minute inversion targeting this unfilled 5 minute, right? Why did I not enter off this? Because last week, and this was the, this question got asked in the Discord why I didn't enter off this. So this first line is going to be a 3 minute. The second line is going to be a 5 minute where our take profit would be. So I didn't enter off this for 2 reasons. Because last week when I entered off a 1 minute inversion with a 3 minute right above us, well, I ended up getting stopped out. And if that would have been my break even point, I also had a different trade, which was relatively the same shit with also another 3 minute right above the 1 minute. That was my break even point, and then I got stopped out at break even. So what I wanted to see was I wanted to see a more clear leg with just like a 1 or 2 minute and nothing like this right here. Because even if we took the 3 minute inversion, well, what was above the 3 minute? Here's a 3 minute, and then the 5 minutes right here anyway. So it was a pretty shit like leg to enter off of. And this is more like a screen time play, but this is a perfect close for an inversion fair value gap. This is about as perfect as it's going to get. And I still didn't take it because my break even point was a shitty fucking spot, right? It's about fucking 0.43 points or 0.43 RR. And then my take profit was like barely a 1-to-1, right? And I wasn't confident because we weren't really generating LR. Like maybe if we like made shit like this on the way down, but see how we just like kind of like it's steep and we're not like gradually going on the way down. So this really isn't like low resistance liquidity. This is just like market shitting the bed. This right here, these 3 moves is low resistance liquidity. Why? Because it's just subtle, right? But this is just a steep climb down. So this is essentially just market structure 101. So Discord asked me why I didn't enter this trade, and here's the reason why. I wanted to see if it was working out. I forward tested it, and boom, I would have got stopped out within the first 2 candles. Would have been in fucking profit for 0 amount of seconds, right? So we continued lower and lower and lower. And what is the last trade I want to go over? It's over here. So there wasn't anything else happening. That's why I'm just going to skip to this last trade because there was nothing else happening. The market just kept shitting the fucking bed. Like, look at this. No retracements. Like, there's nothing going on right here. There's absolutely nothing going on. Okay. So what do we end up doing? We end up coming down. And what are we doing on the higher time frame? What's our higher time frame narrative? Well, we just filled this unfilled 4-hour for value gap, right? Let me get rid of these because all these lines are pretty confusing, right? We end up coming and filling this 1-hour for value gap. And then what else do we have? Well, we have these, I think they're hourly lows. They are on ES. So we ended up taking out these hourly lows, and we had an SMT as well when I just went over that other inversion that I didn't take. We had an SMT with these hourly lows because look, ES came down and took out these shits right here way before, right? Way before. So ES now comes down and takes out these lows from the 4th. I believe these were data lows, to be honest, from yesterday. So now we have another SMT, right? Because here we go. We have a 4-hour for value gap. We have a high time frame SMT. We took out these hourly lows. So boom, this looks pretty, right? We have a hourly for value gap above us that we can target. What else do we have? Well, there's not really much. There's a 15-minute relatively in the same place. So how are we going to enter off this? Well, what do we get? We get a 5-minute inversion, okay? And what else do we get? We get a tap directly back into the inversion. I fucking love setting limit orders, especially when I get tapped in, because there's hardly ever any drawdown when you set a limit order. But it just matters if you get tapped in or not. So we got our high time frame narratives with these SMTs, these 1-hour lows, and this 4-hour for value gap. We now get a 5-minute inversion. What do we have as our targets? Well, we have 5-minute highs right here, and we have this 15-minute unfilled for value gap. So if we want, we could have targeted these 5-minute highs, which would have been perfect because it was a 177 RR. My break even or my stop loss was a pretty big amount. If we come down on the 3-minute, my stop loss would have been at right here under this candle. Why? Because this 3-minute should have pushed us higher, right? We have a 3-minute fair value gap right here, and we also have a retest of the 5-minute version, so that should push us higher if we truly are bullish. I did not take this trade. This happened at 11:18. I just didn't like the setup overall. Like, we were just so fucking bearish. I wasn't trying to just like force along. However, this is an A+ setup, I guess you can say. I just didn't like the time of day it was happening at and how bearish we are. So long towards these 5-minute highs, this unfilled 15-minute gap, and as you guys can see, everything ended up getting hit. Even the 15-minute gap got hit fucking way later, and this would have been bang time because 103 points, it's a fucking lot of money, right? You could have went break even at let's see where our break even point. Well, if you're holding it to this unfilled 15-minute gap, you could have went break even at these 5-minute internal highs right here, and then there was really nothing else. Maybe this like 2-minute gap you could have went break even on if you were targeting this 5-minute internal high right here. And regardless of where the fuck you went break even, you would have banged this trade and it was beautiful, right? So that's really just market structure 101. I really just kind of wanted to go over this trade specifically because I took this exact same trade. It literally looked identical to this last week or maybe like a week and a half ago. And I got stopped out fucking immediately. So that's what I mean by learning from your fucking losses. Okay, so I hope this video helped you guys out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll go ahead and answer them. And yeah, you guys enjoy the rest of your day.